A woman is currently on the run after dumping her 3-week-old baby in the Kambeto neighborhood in Buda, West region of Cameroon. Who should be blamed for the rise in cases of infanticide in Cameroon? Is it the responsibility of the individual or the government to curb the rise in cases? Answers in the course of this newscast. And the newly installed company commander of the Northwest region has been urged to be assiduous, just like that of his predecessor. He is taking over function within the context of the over 6-year-old armed conflict that has led to civil deaths, destruction of properties, and displacements. Those were our major stories. The news in full in few seconds. Good evening, dear televiewers of Equinoxe Television. Thank you so much for choosing Equinoxe TV for presentation. I am Immaculate Fogwe. We begin with this human interest page. The forces of law and order have launched a manhunt to arrest a woman who abandoned her 3-week-old baby in Buda, West region of Cameroon. The baby was discovered after spending the night in the cold at the Kambeto neighborhood. The baby is currently responding to treatment at the Buda District Hospital. We have more of this report compiled by Smart Jikan Gabriel.
In an incubator at the pediatric unit of the Buda District Hospital is a 3-week-old baby girl who is being catered for by the hospital authorities. But how did the baby girl get to the hospital? The general supervisor of the Buda District Hospital, Dr. Lekuze, explains.
I got an information from the quarter. One lady called me informing me that they had discovered a baby just in front of one gate. Then I asked the question whether the baby was alive or not. They assured me that the baby was alive. Without wasting time, I asked the lady to do everything to bring the baby to the hospital. At first, they were a bit afraid because nobody wanted to take the responsibility. But later on, they accepted to bring the baby to the hospital.
The 3-week-old baby girl was discovered in front of a door at the Kambeto neighborhood in Buda after passing all night in the cold air. The doctors at the Buda District Hospital immediately took charge of the baby as she was brought.
When they brought the baby, we realized that the baby was poorly dressed and the baby had been in cold for quite some time. So without wasting time, we undressed the baby, we cleaned the baby, and we tried to warm up the baby and then dress the baby very well. And at the same time, the financial officer of the hospital, with the instruction of the director of the hospital, who is no one else but Dr. Njip Jean-Marie, provided some financial means with which some women went to the market and bought dresses very fast, with which we dressed the baby.
At the time of this report, the 3-week-old baby is sound and safe, as Dr. Lekuze confirms.
Presently, the baby is quite sound, and then they've done everything, the hospital, to provide adequate alimentation or food to the baby. So the baby is quite sound now, and I think the commander of the gendarmerie company in Buda also came. They also did their own investigation, and I'm sure the law is going to take its course, and hopefully we'll eventually find out who abandoned that child.
Elements of the company gendarmerie brigade in Buda have opened an investigation which will surely disclose the face of the lady who abandoned this innocent baby girl at the Kambeto neighborhood and her possible reasons for doing so.
On the same vein, why are many women or many more women killing or throwing their babies in Cameroon? Who is responsible for the rising trend of such atrocities? What should be done? We put these questions to a right advocate and civil society leader, and Babila Jonathan now reports.
Infanticide is on the rise in Cameroon. The practice of killing a child, especially by the mother, because he or she is not wanted or for other reasons, is fast gaining grounds in different parts of the country.
I think these girls or these women are in distress. So they don't have the means to take care of their children, and they think that maybe the best solution is to get rid of them. Most of the time, whether in court or in family settings, in community settings, the blame is on women. Yeah, they are not even listened to. So they will be asked, what do you first go there to do? What did you first? Why did you even go there to do? So now you are coming to complain. So these are social happenings that are a kind of forging the mind of these women to say no, there's no need carrying these children.
While emphasizing that there is no reason to justify the killing of a baby, civil society leader Sylvie Jacqueline Dokmo points an accusing finger to men, particularly those qualified as irresponsible.
Some of these women are behaving like that because of deception. They are abandoned by the authors of their pregnancy, and they feel frustrated. They feel frustrated that the whole story started with two people and now it's ending with one person. So it's kind of frustration. This is not explaining why they are doing that. It's not a good reason for throwing the baby away, but at least these are some of the things that are happening in those women's mind.
Another share of the blame goes to the government for failing to ensure that citizens are not caught in the trap of infanticide, enabling factors like hardship, poverty, and misery.
Why is it first that people cannot have the basic necessity? The state should make sure that there are possibilities for each and everyone.
She has called on competent government services to step up efforts to protect the women and their babies from such atrocities.
We need to have stronger sensitization so that these women know that there is this possibility of handing over their children to this ministry so that they are taken care of. There is a possibility for the ministry taking the child and hosting the child with an orphanage. And when times come that the woman is able to take care of the children, she can come and get the children back.
Meantime, civil society and religious leaders, right defenders, are urging women and all persons to uphold the right to life for all, including babies.
And on to something else. The quality of food we eat plays a great role in ensuring that we are in good health. The bad eating habits of some Cameroonians accounts for the high rate of cases of obesity recorded. Dietitians and nutritionists encourage the population to feed well despite their financial status, so as not just to have a balanced diet, but equally enjoy the benefits of a healthy lifestyle. We have details in this report compiled by Innocent Aze.
Roadside restaurants, as commonly called by many, are where the underprivileged class usually visits to eat. Here, there is no need for luxury, norms, and quality. I am here to eat bobolo and dole. With the present economic hardship, at least here food is affordable.
On l'a ici à moindre coût et c'est à la portée de tous. Je viens de manger.
With 500 francs, you can afford a plate of meal. Even with 300 francs, you can eat puff-puff and beans, and you are full.
Très bien.
While the Cameroonians believe it is only about eating, nutritionists underline it is all about eating well and having a balanced diet. So because every nutrient has a vital role to play in the body system.
Prenons par exemple, le matin vous sortez sans manger.
Imagine you leave your house without eating every morning. Sugar will drop in your bloodstream. When there is no calcium in the baby's milk, the bones will not be strong, giving room for deformations.
Déformation dans leur squelette.
In order to have a balanced diet, nutritionists advise to switch to different variety of meals in order to derive the different nutrients and vitamins.
Il faut donc connaître ce qu'on appelle.
It is imperative to know what is called diet substitution. That if I need protein, I can get it from meat, just like in beans. If I am looking for calcium, it is found in milk that we do not produce, whereas it is contained in our okra, cassava leaf. So, know the different diets eat variety of foods, and you will have a balanced diet.
Libre alimentaire.
All of these notions are elaborated by nutritionists and other diet experts meeting in Yaoundé, advocating for a healthy diet. Every day, we need 41 nutrients by eating variety of meals. By so doing, we will experience the life people live in Europe and have a long lifespan. These nutritionists encourage the population to consume milk, eggs, meat, fish, vegetable oil, vegetables, and fruits on a regular basis in order to be healthy and to live longer.
And now to politics. As a means of sensitizing the population of Nous in the Mungo Division, Littoral region, and equally solving the problem of voters' registration in that locality, the National Commission in charge of elections in Cameroon, headed by Professor Dorothy Juma, during an evaluation meeting, urged civil society actors and political parties to reach out to those in the suburbs. This comes 5 months to the end of the voters' registration for the year 2023. Asia Lucy tells us more about this system.
Civil society actors and political leaders in Nous Mungo Division expressed worries on the distribution of voters' cards in their locality. They were speaking during the visit of the Election Commission headed by Professor Dorothy Juma.
Nous aussi, nous reconnaissons que le taux de distribution des cartes est moins élevé. Et c'est pour cela que nous devions...
We have noticed that the distribution of voters' cards is slow. We beg on Elecam to get close to the population, even those in the quarters, so that they can all get their cards. Because we have about 1,000 cards still pending.
La majeure partie des populations qui sont inscrites puissent retirer leurs cartes, parce que vous constatez qu'aujourd'hui nous sommes à plus de 1000 cartes qui ne sont pas retirées. Donc...
In the course of the meeting, Professor Dorothy Juma also encouraged civil society actors as well as leaders of political parties to register their members on the list as soon as possible.
Faites inscrire vos militants et vos sympathisants. C'est cela que commence la préparation.
She adds that it is necessary to sensitize the population on the electoral process, mostly those who are in the suburbs.
Et nous avons encore 5 mois.
She says registration will be closed in 5 months.
Nos militants et nos sympathisants.
It is expected that the presidential, municipal, legislative elections will take place in 2025 as per the Cameroon Constitution.
And still in politics, the special ordinary session of the Littoral region has ended in Douala today. The session, dedicated to review of its 2022 activities and the 2023 projections, provided an opportunity for the president and members to review their challenges and strategize a way forward. The regional council said financial constraints forced them to move 18 projects meant to be executed in 2022 to 2023. This, according to the president, Balong Polycarp, was caused by the delay in the financial package meant for the Littoral region and the insignificant amount compared to 2021. The Littoral region received 3 billion francs from the state in 2021 and 2.5 billion instead in 2022, which above all came in late. Right now, let's take a listen to Balong Polycarp, Littoral Regional Council President, in this excerpt.
It's not the economic session, but it was only a report of the situation of the Littoral Regional Council the last 12 months. That was the topic of this session. Next week, we are going to have another session. And in this session will be the session of account. Perhaps in this time, you can ask your question, or you can have other requests, and you will have more than what we can tell you today.
Balong Polycarp, Littoral Regional Council President, speaking there. And from the Littoral region, we now move to the West region, where Commander Abdul Rahman has taken over command as head of student sub-officers at the Kutaba Military School. This follows his installation in Kutaba, West region of Cameroon. The installation ceremony was presided over by Brigadier General Philip Bai. He has been challenged to instill in the officers a spirit of commitment and work for the good of their fatherland. Malak Glory tells us about the installation ceremony.
Was the former commander of the 51st Infantry Motorized Battalion in Chang. Today, he is promoted to greater levels. It was during a ceremony in Kutaba, West region of Cameroon, that Abdul Rahman took command as the new commander, head of students of sub-officers at Kutaba Military School. The taking over was between young people. This, according to security officials, indicates the head of state special trust to the youths. This is following the president's end-of-year speech to the nation when he said the youths are the future leaders. The installation ceremony was presided over by General Brigadier Philip Pai, commander of the Military Training and Instruction Centers. The event was graced with beautiful march pasts from the military officials.
And in a related story, the new company commander of the Northwest region has been called upon to be assiduous in his duty, just like that of his predecessor. Captain Gimbos Jipenda took over function within the context of rising insecurity in the Northwest region. Anna Bilaleke has more on the installation ceremony in Bamenda.
The Northwest region for over 6 years now has been going through an armed conflict which has led to the loss of lives, several people displaced and villages deserted. Insecurity thus is no news in the entire Northwest. It is within this context that Captain Gimbus Jipenda Nobel is being installed as the new company commander of the Northwest region. He says he is aware of the task ahead of him.
Yes, I'm ready for that. And I think that if I've been chosen and sent here, it means that the High Command trusts in me. So I'm here and I will do what I'm supposed to do so that the situation will be better.
During the installation ceremony which took place in Bamenda recently, the regiment commander enjoined him to pick up from his predecessor.
So we expect Captain Gimbus to continue from where he ended by doing everything in order for normalcy to return in the town of Bamenda and its environs. We expect him to work particularly in the domain of collaboration with the population, which we must admit is becoming more and more collaborative actions of law and order. So we expect him to mobilize his voice in order to improve the relationship which is existing between the gendarmerie and the population.
Captain Gimbus Jipenda Nobel was born in 1972 in a Funzi division of the Central region. He will be commanding 5 subdivisions of the Northwest. They are Bamenda 1, Bamenda 2 and Bamenda 3, Tuba and Bafut subdivisions.
And now, out of our Cameroonian borders, the death toll in Sudan continues to rise as it has risen to about 200 deaths, with about 2,000 people injured as a result of heavy fighting between the army and pre-militaries in Khartoum, Sudan's capital. The United Nations High Commissioner in Sudan has called for an immediate end to hostilities. Our reporter Asia Lucy Liengu has details on our international page.
At least 200 people have died in Sudan and about 2,000 wounded, with thousands more trapped in their homes without electricity or access to food, water or medicine. This is the balance sheet indicated on Monday, April 17th by the head of the United Nations mission in Sudan. The fighting, which has concentrated on heavily populated areas of Khartoum and residential zones across the country, has exposed civilians to risks of death and injury from airstrikes, artillery shelling, and the use of explosive weapons with wide area effects. This is as a result of fighting between the Sudanese armed forces led by Abdel Fattah al-Burhan and the paramilitaries of Rapid Support Forces, whose boss is General Mohamed Hadanek Daglo. The United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights Volker Turk has called for an immediate end to hostilities in Sudan and urged the Sudan Armed Forces and Rapid Support Forces to return to negotiations. The High Commissioner has also urged both parties to remind their fighters of their international obligations to protect civilians and vital infrastructure, such as schools and hospitals, and ensure that these obligations are respected.
Asia Lucy reporting there. News about women throwing their newborn babies in a pit toilet, dustbins, farms, or even abandoning them in front of someone's house have become very rampant in Cameroon. On Easter Sunday, a newborn baby was rescued from a pit toilet by neighbors in Bafoussam. Another case was in Kongsamba, where a child was discovered in the farm. These are just few of the many cases recorded in Cameroon. Why the rise in cases of infanticide? That's what we'll be answering today on Talking Points. Stay with us. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for staying with me today on Talking Point. On today's edition of Talking Point, I will be receiving Sylvie Jacqueline Dogmo. She is a human rights advocate and equally the president of WILF International. Good evening, dear Sylvie. It is a pleasure having you on Talking Point today.
It's a pleasure for me being here today.
So, what's really wrong with some women nowadays? You carry a child for 9 months, later give birth, and then you decide to throw that child in the toilet. What can push a woman to carry out such an act?
Immaculate, I want to tell you that from our experience, this is exactly one of the main reasons, this impunity. I want to talk about impunity because when these cases happen, they have happened in the past, but these men continue to work freely despite the complaint from the women. They continue to work freely in the street because they have no reason to worry about, taking into account our context. So this impunity is a real problem. The men feel that they have the go ahead to do anything they like. So the minute they will start being held accountable of this, I think it's going to be reducing. So there is a need to hold these men accountable, because as I indicated earlier, the whole story is about a woman and a man. Then at the end of the day, the woman finds herself alone and she's in distress. So there's a kind of frustration, there's a kind of deception. She's like, this was our story. And then looking into the baby is like looking into something which is hurting for her. She doesn't want to keep the child of this person who betrayed her. So this is one of the reasons. But nothing can be blamed only on men. Yes, we can also talk about the family or the social constraint. I want to quote Equinoxe by saying regard social. This regard social, how are those girls who have children at home, how are they looked up to in their family? What is what do the people think about them in the family? In some families, I have a neighbor, I want to give a story. I have a neighbor who beat her daughter almost to death because she was pregnant. So you imagine this type of a situation. So in case she is pregnant, she would do her best to throw away the child because she's afraid of family threat or social threat. So the society or the family or the society at large should change the way they look at this situation. But at the level of the girls themselves, we have worked so hard in the communities, and we have been able to come across cases where women, especially young girls, they feel that a baby is an obstacle to their enjoyment. Yes, they want to enjoy their life, they want to be okay, but they have a problem. The baby is an obstacle. What do they do with the baby? So they better continue their life without this burden, which is a baby. So these are some of the responsibilities that I can see regarding this.
So, CV, talking about the men who refuse to accept their responsibilities, don't you think they too should be held accountable? Most of the times they tend to walk freely on the streets, while the mother who abandoned the baby due to some unforeseen circumstances is arrested. Do you think both parties have a role to play as far as this baby is concerned?
Yes, I want to say that these acts are really unfortunate happenings in our society, but they are happening, so we have to question ourselves why. I think one of the reasons I can mention is that is poverty. I always try to look at the root causes, what can push someone to do that. And looking into our society now, I think poverty can be one of the reasons to explain this. Because of the rampant, the galloping inflation, many people, many families have nothing, almost nothing to put on the table. So because it's difficult to have something to eat for themselves, they feel that these babies are a burden. They are a burden and they can't cope with it. So that's one of the reasons that I can mention without being explaining or giving a right cause to it. But this is one of the reasons: poverty, rising inflation. It is true. You know that in Cameroon now, if you go to the market with 10,000, you can't even put good food on the table. So you can understand the drama these women are in. But also, I want to also talk about the responsibility of the authors of these pregnancies.
So, Civil, let's look at this circumstance. Some of these women who already have about 5 or 6 kids sometimes consider having another baby to be an extra burden for them. So their next move is to abandon the baby. Some observers think if some structures were put at the disposal of Cameroonians where unwanted babies are kept, then this will go a long way to curb the rise in infanticide cases in Cameroon. What's your take on that?
Yes, I think this is true, but I want to say that we have some ministry, even if they are not doing as much as we would have loved to see. There are things that are being done. I want to look at social affairs, for example. They have this center in Yaoundé, which is a center to accommodate children in distress, this type of children that are abandoned. But how many people know about this center? Yeah, of course, it's only one center in Yaoundé, so that's another limitation, but at least it exists. And in a region like Littoral and in a place like Douala, there are all these possibilities of getting the children to orphanages. So, but I want to say that it's important for this Ministry of Social Affairs or Ministry of Women Empowerment and Family to make this known to the population, because for the Ministry of Social Affairs, between 0 to 18, they accommodate and they give opportunities to these girls or women to have their children taken care of. But after 18 years, they are taken care of by the Minister of Women Empowerment and Family. Whether one or the other ministry, I'm not sure that people know that there are these possibilities, that this possibility do exist. I was speaking to one woman in the Ministry of Social Affairs who indicated that in case a woman has a baby and she wants to do an affair and the baby seems to be an obstacle in terms of managing her business, there is a possibility for the Ministry of Social Affairs to get the child to an orphanage while the lady is taking this responsibility. Sometimes it can be financial constraint. If they have some financial constraint and they can't take care of their babies, there's a possibility of the Ministry of Social Affairs caring for their children through orphanages and then getting the baby back to their parents when they are able to do that. But yeah, but I told the lady that I'm a bit worried, because I remember a few years back we made a campaign that was led by Kawala. We made a campaign. There was one woman who exactly did just that. she was not able to take care of her child because she had no means. And she went to Minas, and the baby was received by Minas. And later on, a few years back, she came, and not even a few years back, at one moment she was coming to visit the child, and she was not given permission again to see her child. And finally, she couldn't find the child again. So I think these are some of the dynamics that are happening, and being on one side possibilities, on other side threat to this. So I think the state responsibility is very huge here in terms of normalizing the system, in terms of educating, sensitizing the population to know that these opportunities do exist, but and making sure that the opportunities serve the cause. Because if women have a testimony of other women who have relied on Minas to bring their children to an orphanage or to the center, and later on they are not able to find their children, then they will be discouraged. So I think the first responsibility is for the state, because of these structures that should have existed and or that should play the role they are there for, but also in trying to enable these women to have the support they need, whether it's financially or psychologically.
So, CV, recently I saw a woman who gave birth to quadruplets in Bonaberry, and she was begging for aid on social media. In such cases, was the Ministry of Women's Empowerment and the Family not supposed to intervene?
No, I want to say that it's about sensitization. I think it's how do the Ministry of Women Empowerment and Family make their work known, make their services known. I think it's a strategy that they have to adopt to make sure that as many women as possible. But I can testify that there are possibilities within the ministry, but how are they made known? So I think the ministry, as I said earlier, should do more in terms of making sure the population is aware of their duties, of the services they offer, but most importantly, through their regional and divisional connection, they should make sure that there are mechanisms put in way to assist these women in distress. But for me, assisting is another layer, but the first layer is about sensitization. How do they make sure that as many women as possible are aware of these opportunities, but also when the case is already there, they should make sure that for each case that happens, they should speak out. It's very important, because if they do speak out, it's going to reduce the number of cases happening, and it's going to build greater confidence in women and girls.
And so now, can we say the ministry has failed in its duties? Because normally we ought to have seen them on the field very active, sensitizing the population. But most of their outings, we mostly see them let's say, on Women's Day. Is that enough?
I was supposed to intervene. Yeah, personally, I followed that case, and then we spoke about that with my colleagues. We were trying to see in the organization with Cameroon and also in the platform, Cameroonian Women for National Dialogue, what we could do to support this woman, because from time to time we do this type of support. This is not our work. We are not a humanitarian organization, but from time to time we do this type of support, including with regards social of Equinoxe. So I want to say that I followed this case, and yesterday I saw this Cameroonian Valsero. He's a popular singer. This is the opportunity to congratulate him for the action that he did, because he was able to mobilize money, and the money was given to the family yesterday. Yes, so I think instead of throwing babies away, this is what should be done. Cry out, speak out, say that I don't have the means. So the problem here is for those women who throw their babies away, but crying out for help is not a problem. That's why organization, people of good faith, goodwill, and structure can come to help. So I really encourage and commend this lady and the husband for bringing out their despair to the people, and also to commend those people, especially General Valsero, who has already started giving some contributions. So my advice is that for women and for girls who are in such a situation, please, 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 other people are out there and can support you. Don't do that. Don't do that. It's a human being. Don't kill a human being. Don't do that. Don't sacrifice a human being because of all this. Even if it's a financial problem, do call for help. This case of this woman in Bonaberi is a testimony that if you cry out for help, you can receive that help. So it's important to do that. I want to say that these are cases that are being handled by the community, but the main responsibility, I think the ministry should do proper work in this domain. I know that they are doing some work, but I want to say that many people don't know what the ministry is doing. Are there these possibilities? No, they don't know. So the ministry, even if there is no direct support, at least speaking out, trying to give moral support is a step. I know for one, having worked for years with the Minister of Women Empowerment and Family, that this minister is challenged by the budget. You know that contrary to other ministers, when they talk about gender, when they talk about women's affairs, no money, no attention. So I understand very well why the Ministry of Women Affairs is limited. But at the same time, it's not about money. It's not all about money. It's about making sure that those women feel that they can rely on their ministry, of their mother who is the minister, and cry out to her. So before even talking about money, what moral support is given from that institution? So I want to say that, to tell the ministry that it's not about money. It's about making sure that these women are listened to. These women are given a helping hand. These women are given a listening ears, and make sure that the minister should speak out and sensitize and make women to know that wherever they are in Cameroon, in such situation, they should be able to relate to her. So if you have messages like this, whether at regional level, at national level, I'm sure the women and girls are going to be more comfortable and to deal with such cases.
Thank you so much, CV Jacqueline, for being part of Talking Point today. And that's where we end today's edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinoxe Television. Thank you so much for your keen attention. Stay in the company of more programs on ETV. Have a lovely evening. So long.
Equinoxe Télévision, au-delà de l'image, nous rendons compte.